Hello, I'm Wendy Wilson, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Realizing Potential. Today I have with me in the studio one of Albany State University's great forces. He falls in our student demographic. He's in our graduate program and a very familiar face throughout the Southwest Georgia community, and we're proud to say that he is an undergraduate alum and now again preparing to complete his graduate work here, and we're just excited about his continued future. He continues to make an impact. I could brag about him all day long, but we'll let him join in on the conversation that I'm having with you. He is none other than Mr. Demetrius Young. How are you?
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Awesome.
This is long overdue, long overdue.
Yeah.
And I was thinking the producer, Connie Williams, and I, we were kind of working out the slate of guests for the fall semester. And I think it was on social media at the time, and I was like, why have we not extended the invitation? I have the perfect person.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, let's learn a little bit. I know there's a small group of people who don't know your impact, so we'll educate them and enlighten the rest of the viewers as to what your activities are and your interest and what you're so passionate about. But let's start. You're a native Albanian?
Native Albanian.
Okay.
Native Albanian, born and raised here. And my connection with the university goes way back. I tell everybody I've been going to Albany State since I was 5 years old. I attended the Margaret, I guess it's Hazard, the preschool over on the old campus when I was 5 years old. So I started there, and just throughout my life had a connection with the university all the way throughout in many of the programs here, summer programs. I always bragged that I was on the internet in the 80s before everybody knew about the internet, because actually what became the internet was came through here at Albany State in the old computer science lab, and I was in a program, summer program, that allowed us to connect through that connection to other students at UGA and around the university system back in the 80s. So through there, coming up to my, I guess, traditional undergrad experience, I actually took a little detour and went to our rivals up at Fort Valley, because, you know, being local, you always want to go out of, you know, leave home. Yes. But I eventually came back home to Albany State and got started in political science with the venerable, I don't know if you remember Dr. Hollis. She was, she was over the political science department at that time, but she really tried to infuse technology, even back then, the late 80s, 90s, into political science, and I got into computers, and then took another detour into IT, and that detour led me into an IT career for about 20 years. Okay. And so when I kind of got my feel of that, I lived out in Colorado for, raised my kids basically out there, and when we moved back here, wanted to come back and see if I could finish out that political science degree, and so glad I did, because it's really been just a very good experience, edifying experience. Not that I didn't love my career in IT, but it was just I knew I had something out there to do, and this is just kind of tying up those loose ends, and finished up my undergraduate last year, and over with Dr. Dankwa and Dr. Ilufiede, and there's some wonderful men, and just have been just thoroughly captivated by their instruction here. We have some world-class instructors here. Indeed, we do. And just blessed to be here. Indeed.
I did not know the IT piece. I just, you know, you make assumptions.
Exactly.
I said, maybe there was a military stint, because I knew that you were out in Colorado, and that you would come back, and you were kind of the quintessential Renaissance man, because you were just, you know, you have your hands in so many different areas, making an impact, and then your greatest achievement, I always compliment you on, you've 3 girls?
4. 4
girls.
My oldest, she's 23, and she actually stayed in Colorado. So she was started school out there, and she's still out there working and doing well. And I have a 18, 17. Then I have an 11-year-old daughter. Yeah, but
and you're still sane.
yeah, well, barely.
Yeah, we constantly talk about that, sharing that with a colleague about it's the one thing in life that is both rewarding and challenging
All the time.
at the same time. At the same time. But you've done an outstanding job with your 4 girls. I'm not sure where I got 3 from. Yeah. But again, that I didn't realize that there was that IT stint. But
right.
I want to really kind of focus on, before we go a little further in terms of what the future, your plans are. So we talked about the political science piece,
Right.
and let's kind of delve in a little more as to the genesis of that. I know many of your the viewers out there know your mom.
Exactly.
For those who do not, but I'm sure that has since you came into the world and continue to evolve, that was just instrumental in terms of your overall development. So let's speak a little bit about that.
Well, my mother was Attorney Mary Young Cummings, the late Attorney Mary Young Cummings, and she was the first black female attorney here in Albany. She was also a HBCU alum. She did her undergraduate at Savannah State and then went on to get her law degree from Howard. My father was in the Air Force, and they met in Washington, D.C., and he's actually from here in Dougherty County, and they moved back here and settled into Albany, and my mother worked with C.B. King during the Civil Rights Movement. My mother was, of course, very active in the Civil Rights Movement, and became active as the transition started from the Civil Rights Movement into, I guess, sort of a black inclusion into the political world. So after the Albany movement here, the transition to political action became getting everything, I guess, kind of pushed toward being into politics and being allowed to hold office, because one of the things that my mother was able to do, she sued the city of Albany back in the 70s to get away from at-large elections. Back then, anybody could hold office no matter where you lived, but that kind of isolated black folk from having a representative for their own neighborhood. So she sued the city of Albany along with some other people, and that started ward elections. So you had a representative who could represent your area, and she was the first of 3 African American city commissioners here in Albany, along with Charles Sherrod and Mr. Robert Montgomery back in the 70s. So that, kind of steeped my entry into politics. I got involved in one of my dad's early campaigns at 4 years old, doing a political commercial. So that I go way back with politics.
You've had a steady diet of that.
Exactly.
I don't know if I've shared this story with you, but I have a really it's always amusing, but I was so charmed by it at the same time. I had the honor to MC an event where your mom was recognized for her work during the Civil Rights Movement, and Danny Glover gave her the award.
I remember that. I remember that.
What was so amusing, he was so in awe and enamored of her, and she was in awe and enamored with him, and so both of them just kind of starstruck. And so I was always, I recall that from time to time, yes, and so I was so pleased that she was able to receive that honor.
That was one of her favorite moments.
Oh, I'm so glad to know that. It was a beautiful occasion. The room was filled, and it's so important to honor our loved ones before they give them their just dues before they transition into the ancestor stage. Yes, So you had a steady diet of politics and community activism. You were still carrying that. You picked up the baton, if you will. So you were very active very recently, a couple years ago, fighting against an unwanted presence, if you will, in this community.
Yes, and that wasn't necessarily something that I chose. It kind of chose me. We had a situation where a liquor store was allowed to be put in a residential area in our neighborhood. This is a poor, kind of disenfranchised, all the words, impoverished neighborhood. And the forces in the city government decided that it was okay to allow a business owner to place a liquor store there. And ironically, this was a block from my house and right where my daughter and other school kids catch the bus every day. And it's right across from a housing project. So we know how problematic liquor stores are for impoverished communities. We recognize that most of the liquor stores in Albany are located on major thoroughfares, but we were wondering why did they allow this to be in a residential neighborhood. So we spoke out about it. I went back to the blueprint that I was taught by my mother and organized the community. We had mass meetings just like they did back in the day, and we organized ourselves to be heard at the city commission meeting, and we were able to thwart him being able to kind of expand the liquor store, but he's still kind of allowed to build it. But we're working with him, and that's one of the things I was probably more proud of. We didn't want to necessarily, just kind of vilify him, but we wanted to say, hey, this is not good for our community, and we want you to have a business and be in business, because we do need, small business ownership, but we don't need that kind of business here. This is a mistake. Let's figure it out. So we're still negotiating with him as a community, and so far as we've heard, he does not plan to build it. So that was a win for the community, and we're just keeping on trucking, and that was my first foray into kind of a social activism.
One of many, I'm sure, and there's so many messages just in that story shared, one of which that there's certainly a level of accountability and responsibility, business owner, when you come into a community. Certainly you have done, not in meeting you, but him, and any business owner, you've done your research. And you know the potential revenue, but again, that responsibility at what cost? At what cost? And so you're coming in, again, taking away revenue, but the impact and the long-term impact, area and environment that is battling so many social ills, and then to come in and in many respects exacerbate that.
And one, as you say that, one of the things that was so awesome about that, we had all segments of the community kind of speak out against it, and even here at Albany State, our wonderful head of the Criminal Justice Department, Dr. Ochi, wrote a wonderful piece in the Herald, just outlining with data and research why liquor stores are not good for impoverished communities, and we were just so happy to have that as part of our stance. Look, here's the research. Not we're just here protesting. We're not just here, kind of, being in an angry way. We have research. We have data to show you why this you shouldn't have put this here. This is not going to help the community. And like I said, all segments of the community spoke out. Albany State serves to, or can serve to, help the community out in those aspects, and that's one of the reasons I'm proud to be in the master's program here, because I've realized now that the research that is done here can be such a great help to impoverished communities. We can figure out poverty, we can figure out social justice ills. When we access these scholars here and access the experts who have data, have the research to tell us, how to implement policy to help our community.
I was listening to you attentively, but then I also, my mind just kind of segued for a minute. I believe it was John Hope Franklin's, who did Before the Mayflower? Do you remember the book Before the Mayflower? I believe it was in that text.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
And I'm going to go back and figure and determine if that's it. But there is a chapter dedicated to how alcohol was used as a form of control and gifted to slaves at certain times of the year, and the way that it was labeled or named, freedom or joy or but again, we know the impact that it can have.
And especially with Native American community.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Rampant rates of alcoholism when that was, deliberately placed in their culture.
Well, good. Well, thank you on behalf of the community, that immediate community that you reside in,
Right.
and then for the larger community, globally, if you will, is
Right.
setting another example as to how you, and I love your example of the blueprint that your mom left.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that it certainly does, can make a difference.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. It's a part of the political process. A lot of people are, kind of down on protest, community activism. Oh, we don't need to march anymore. That's so yesterday. But these are the tools that they gave us. And like I said, just kind of learning, with my degree and being here in study, you recognize that those are actually, that's part of the political process. The civil rights movement was something that everyone benefited from.
Certainly.
Because it paved the way for not only black folks, but women, LGBTQ community to have a place within our government, within our country, and be protected because our forefathers and mothers fought for those rights, not just for us, but for everybody to take part.
That's right. That's right. Pave the way for generations to come. I'm curious, have you started giving thought to your thesis?
Well, I am working on a grant. Other thing, like I said, Albany State is a wonderful place to be. I was involved in a grant writing seminar last quarter, and I'm working to possibly start a center of study in poverty in Southwest Georgia.
Oh, wow.
So I'm working with Dr. Mons, and I can't think of my lady up in the research department. They're really
Dr. Rinsford?
Dr. Ransford,
Okay.
yeah, they've really been helping me try to put that together. So yeah, I got quite a few
Okay.
irons in the fire.
Yes, you do.
Along
Yes,
with,
you do. Yes, you
a
do.
possible political run. So
Oh, of course.
stay tuned. Stay tuned.
That was always, that was just understood in the
Right.
back of my head. You've got to
Right.
carry on the tradition with that.
Right.
You have so much going on constantly. That's just your makeup.
Yeah.
And certainly we benefit from that as well.
Oh,
But I
thank
was
you.
just having a conversation with a colleague in my office yesterday. We were having a meeting, and they were having a moment. It gets stressful around this time of year.
gotcha.
And I said, what's the balance for you? And they remained silent. So that let
Right.
me know that there was none.
Right.
And you have to do that.
Have to do that.
So what's how do you create balance? What does that look like for you, sir?
Well, I have to do better. I have to do better with
Okay.
that balance. But when I guess I do try to balance it, is of course we talk with music, and I really need to do more of that. But music, and I think just kind of enjoying friends and things like that. Right now, it's such a whirlwind, but balance is always the key to keeping it moving.
It is. Okay, we'll have to be accountability partners, because
Definitely.
I've been failing at that
Yes.
a lot lately, so we'll have to do regular check-ins on that.
Okay.
I did not give you the homework assignment that I typically give our guests, so but I know you'll do well with this. I'm going to ask that you do not include your parents in this answer.
Okay.
Yeah. So can you name one or two individuals that have impacted you on a global scale?
Wow, on a global scale.
And when I mean global, I mean that has global or international acclaim.
Well, the person would have to have global acclaim. That's, well, you said I can't do
And
my
if not, just one or two people that have impacted you, but they cannot be your parents. I know
cannot
that
be my
it is obvious the impact that they've had on you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think I will probably, and I'm gonna have, if you allow me to do it, I have to do it in a general sense, and I would say probably all of my teachers over the year.
Okay.
All over the years. I was always early on realized the importance of education. My parents stressed that, and I have teachers who I can remember their faces all the way back to first grade.
Really?
You know, from Miss Forrester in first grade all the way up to Dr. Dankwa and Dr. Ilufiede now in my studies here at Albany State. But they, educators are so, here in our country, unheralded for what they impart in us, more than our, not more than, but you know, in I guess in contrast to our parents, because they shape us, they allow us to become who we are, and teaching us what we should know about ourselves. And instructors, teachers are my greatest heroes.
All right, great answer, great answer, great answer. That was not my calling.
Okay.
Yeah, I learned that early on. Yeah, go out walking, doing a perp walk in some of these classes.
Right.
Not here at
Not
Albany
here,
State,
right.
but it just requires a level of patience. And students come to you with so many needs,
Right.
desires, and plans for their life, and you're responsible. That's a heck of a responsibility.
It is,
and
it
so
is.
I certainly liken it to a calling, and don't take that lightly at all.
Right, right.
Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yo, it's my pleasure. I look forward to you coming back,
Okay.
making some announcements, telling us what that thesis work is like and those grants. You are certainly a key part of the fabric of Albany State University. And what I'm most proud and honored on behalf of the community is that you could have stayed in Colorado.
Right.
You could have gone anywhere
Right.
and shared your gifts and talents with whatever community, but to come back home, because so many people do not.
Do not.
So we're honored that you did that, and so honored that you continue the legacy
Thank
of your
you so
parents.
much. Thank you so much.
You're
I appreciate
welcome.
that.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Viewers, thank you so much for joining me for this edition of Realizing Potential. I'm Wendy Wilson, and I will see you next time.